Big D Entertainment, in association with Dipsy Doodle Productions, presents The Dave Holly Hour. Brought to you by Posh Boutique at the Bridges at 57th, The Sky in Tea, XL Chiropractic, Quality Nails, Jesse Moffitt Entertainment, and Sonny's Pizzeria. The Dave Holly Hour features Sioux Empire Arts and Entertainment conversations. A true lover of arts, entertainment, good food, and fun times, including an occasional Jack Daniels. Okay, so a few Jack Daniels. Here he is, Dave Holly.
Welcome, Sioux Empire Arts and Entertainment lovers. Coming up, local film buff Brian Mensing returns to the show to talk movies during this Oscar week. Then later in the show, we talk to artist Hector Curriel about his graphic illustration book that tells the story of legendary South Dakotan Joe Foss. Great book. He's also a great artist, and we'll tell you all about it, and it's his first time on the show. Plus, we'll tell you who or what gets this week's honorable mention, as well as choose another winner of Pizza with a Podcaster. But first, let's pop the cork on this bubbly little show.
Time to grab your favorite beverage, lift it high, and toast it to being Thursday, a.k.a. Weekend Eve.
Hey, the weekend isn't around the corner, it's here!
So long, hump day and your frumpy way. We say hello to Thursdays with opening nights. The weekend is near and we can see the bright lights. Yes, Thursday, you're so hearty, we can't wait for Friday, so a day early, we start the party.
What you're having to drink to toast for the Weekend Eve toast is primarily determined upon when, where, how you're listening. But regardless, hold them up high and toast to unexpected chances. Last Sunday's snow prevented my wife and I from going to see the fireball known as Mama Holly, but it did give us time to see one of our favorites. The OG, the original friend of the show, Elizabeth Hunstead, playing a Sunday afternoon gig here in town. And it was great to see her. We caught a little bit more than her first set, had a chance to catch up with her. It was fantastic. So, to those unexpected chances. The Weekend Eve Toast is brought to you by The Sky in Tea. The Sky provides all caps fun, and that is best had with friends. So have fun playing darts, have fun shooting pool, have fun listening to great live music from local musicians, have fun singing at karaoke, have fun testing your knowledge at trivia. Maybe you need more room to hold a big company party or hold a benefit. Well, the Sky's big back room will fit that bill. No matter what's going on at the Sky, it's local and it's lively. It's time to choose a lucky winner of Pizza with a Podcaster. Everyone that follows the Dave Holly Hour on Facebook or Instagram automatically entered to win a free pizza from Sonny's Pizzeria. We pick a winner each week. This week we say congratulations to Alyssa Damiata. We'll be in touch with you, Alyssa, to get you all set up for some jowl-dropping, show-stopping, thin-crust pizza. Pizza with a Podcaster is brought to you by Sonny's Pizzeria, right across from USF at 26th and Waltz, and Sonny's at 81 on South Phillips. Check out the very fun and incredibly flavorful menu online, sonnyspizzeria.com. Sad note to pass along for Sonny's, though. The dog, Sonny, the mascot, passed away last weekend. But I'm sure there will be plenty of ways to remember Sonny. Honorable mention. All right, so what made Dave giggle, guffaw, laugh, shed a tear of joy? Well, it was laughter and plenty of it. So, honorable mention this week to Old Town Dinner Theater's cast and crew of leading ladies. You know, my love and I have seen a lot of shows at Old Town, a lot of farces, but leading ladies has set a new, higher bar for total laughter. It was Fun, fun, fun. No wonder it's a sold-out show. Well done, Old Town. Later in the show, caricaturist and graphic artist Hector Curriel. Coming up next, local film buff Brian Mensing on the Dave Holly Hour.
Check out the new ceramic studio in Sioux Falls, conveniently located off Kiwanis Avenue on 5th Street. TJS Ceramics. We have thousands of classic vintage ceramic mold items and several new items too. TJS Ceramics offers classes through the Sioux Falls Community Education Program and special open studio nights every Thursday evening. Bisques, studio time, or finished custom items are available. Visit TJS Ceramics Studio in Sioux Falls today.
Helping women feel empowered and confident is what Posh Boutique at the Bridges at 57th does, while supplying high-quality clothing that fits your lifestyle, personality, and price point. Whether you want comfy and cozy, casual attire, or something for a special occasion, Posh provides quality, selection, and value. They carry sizes extra small to 3X and have something appropriate for any age. Feel empowered and get confident. Posh Boutique at the Bridges at 57th.
Dr. Perry Langston and Dr. Corey Tooney know excellence is in you. That's why they provide you with excellent care at XO Chiropractic, improving your overall health in spirit, body, mind, and will. Get results the natural way. Arrange a consultation, 605-332-9235 or exokairos.com. Excellent care for excellent people. XO Chiropractic, located at 4309 South Racket Drive in Sioux Falls.
Support the Dave Holly Hour in a very easy way. Buy Dave a cup of coffee by clicking the cup in the lower left corner of www.davehollyhour.com.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm going to say it. You know I'm going to say it. You await it now even, don't you? Where I start off all the conversations with, it is always a pleasure to talk Sioux Empire, arts and entertainment. Well, we're to extend the Sioux Empire out to Hollywood this time. Oscars are coming up this weekend, and from the Sioux Empire, though, he's a local film buff. Brian Mensing, who used to be part of the 605, the Backlot 605 crew, and had a fantastic podcast, and you and your cohorts were guests on this show a few times. I was on that show with you guys a couple of times. Always great to talk film. And first of all, let's get it as to what makes you such a film buff. How did it all start for you?
For me, it's just the passion and love to enjoy watching movies. I mean, if someone says if what I would rather read a book or watch a movie, I tend to watch movies.
You're going to do the movie?
I'm going to watch movies. It's easier to digest 2 or 3 hours versus how much in a book.
So based on that then, what do you say to the people that come up to you and say, well, the book was better?
Oh,
because there's a lot of that.
And as somebody who's watched some movies that are based on books, that is 100% an argument. For like me, for the sake of, big franchises that I'm familiar with, like Harry Potter and Hunger Games and stuff like that, or even like Stephen King's The Shining, there's those books where you're like, there's the reason why the books are better is because you have that ability to go much more in depth in these pages that you can't fit, or there's no ability to represent what you're reading on a page on the screen. So absolutely, there's justification to say, yeah, of course the book is better.
I would expect it to be. That's how it got to become a movie.
Yep. Absolutely. But that's also the same instance where I also look at them as 2 separate mediums that are based off the same ideas, because as the nerd that I am, like when I heard that Hollywood wanted to make Ready Player One, I've read that book. The biggest draw to that book for me was all the pop culture, all the nerdom that is Ready Player One. But I also knew from the sake of a filmmaking standpoint, it would be a logistical nightmare. Licensing, permissions, all that stuff. The fact that movie, there's so much in that movie that is nothing to the book, or vice versa. You almost have to look at them as that there's a common source, but take them for each for what they are. You can have a movie that's going to be better than the book, but you're going to have a book who's going to be better than the movie. Or hopefully you look at them both and saying, they're interpreted in two different ways. Enjoy them both.
What's your favorite genre?
I don't necessarily say I have a favorite because, I do enjoy the horror. Maybe not as much as maybe like Casey and Sam.
Right. They do love
their horror. Shout out to their new podcast. But like, for instance, like action, I would say probably one of those ones that are more for, I guess, the excitement, the adrenaline, more or less kind of thing. But I mean, a straight up drama, a comedy. I mean, I'll even say is one of my favorite romantic comedies is Sweet Home Alabama. I mean, there's
I loved it too.
Reese Witherspoon's amazing.
How can it go wrong?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's one thing I think also makes me appreciate film, though, as well, is that there are so many different genres and subgenres and mixing of genres, like really, especially like when scary movies started coming out how many years ago, to mix comedy and horror to the point where, like, just because you film allows you also that ability to say you don't have to be just this one genre. You can split it up. You can meld a thriller and a horror, or a comedy and a horror for that matter, or an action, but still be able to make a punchline.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the big word that's become huge when it comes to talking about movies over the past couple of decades now, is the word franchise.
Yes.
It used to be, oh yeah, well, somebody has a sequel maybe and so forth, but it's really going back to some olden golden days of, Tarzan movies, things along that line and so forth. And I just thought of, Rocky went 5, and then there was another one, that modern version, and now there's 3 Creed movies. So basically there's 9 movies in that franchise.
Yep, in that little universe that they've now created.
And somebody asked me this morning, are you a big Star Wars fan? I said, no. I said, not really. I don't mind them.
Right.
I'll see them, but I'm not this crazy go-nuts person that I have to put it on the calendar. I said, now, when it comes to Indiana Jones, yes, I have June 30th on my calendar. I'm waiting for the tickets. But it is interesting how that comes about and how that has brought such huge, huge dollars to Hollywood. And quite honestly, I think it helped it make it through the pandemic.
Oh, 100%. I mean, there's smaller ones, like I would certainly say, maybe like say Nolan's Batman, excuse me. Or even at the turn of the basically 2001, when we started to get the Fast and the Furious and whatnot, I really think that it was the turn of the millennium when we started to see that resurgence of the franchise.
Right.
And then obviously exploded when Marvel's like, you know what, we're going to do this and we're going to launch it to the moon. Because I mean, by then, we're seeing, trilogies aren't uncommon, but they're like, we have a beginning, a middle, and end, like Lord of the Rings when that came through and whatnot. But really, I would certainly say is the new version of what we consider a franchise, or what all these studios are turning. Well, now that we have a franchise, so we can do this now we need to make our own little universe, almost like they need to be like, well, we can do the Marvel formula too. But yeah, I think it's just a matter of they're going, okay, well, we need to look beyond 3 movies, because I mean, we really hadn't seen that really until, I mean, the only thing I think outside of the horror genre, there really wasn't anything more than 2, maybe 3 movies that we would ever get before they're like, we got our first, our second, and our third act. We're done.
Yeah.
But, obviously like
Halloween,
the house that Freddy built, New Line Cinema with Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th with Jason Voorhees, Leprechaun, really those like long-standing franchises were all horror-based until, they're like, well, we can do this other places too.
All right. And you said Harry Potter's a big one for you.
I would certainly say that definitely helped as well. They made an explosive franchise off of, granted, there was a massive universe of books that they were still writing at the time they started making the movies, but I mean, you looked at it and you're like, the books are big, the movies are going to be huge. Right. Warner Brothers knew what they were doing then. Well, they may not now.
And just see what beyond the movie itself has come about, in terms of the promotional items that are available.
It's got its own little section in Universal Studios.
Yeah, it's just incredible what goes along with the marketing of a film anymore.
Oh yeah,
and it's just it's. Sometimes people say, "Oh, it's annoying," but you know what? It's actually kind of fun. I enjoy that part of it, seeing what is built off of, as you say, the little universes that all of them have now and so forth.
I mean,
so that's
what Star Wars. I mean, that was a big thing. Is like
true.
One of the things that made Star Wars as massive as it was licensing of toys. I still to this day I have my 1982 stuffed Kenner Ewok. I have my Wicket up in my closet. I still, 40 years later, I still have that thing.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That makes a movie buff. That's for sure.
Right.
I saw you walked in to the studio with your State Theater sweatshirt on.
Oh, I love that thing.
Oh, it's classic too. And boy, what a great place to see a movie. In fact, most recently, just saw The Fabelmans there. And going to be talking about that a little bit later on. It is one of those. It's up for the Oscars. But what do you think it takes for a movie to become an Oscar-worthy movie?
I would honestly say, well, granted, we're also having to look at the different subcategories of within the Oscars and whatnot. Not necessarily just what is the perfect movie, the best picture, if you will, and whatnot. So, I mean, I think it definitely depends on what the movie is or what categories they're being submitted for, because you could certainly have a movie that is just as the movie comes out or whatever. Maybe it's not the best well-written movie, but it looks absolutely beautiful. The costume design, whether it be computer, the computer graphics, whatever the case is. So I just think it matter the realism, the authenticity, the amount of effort and beauty that comes out of this form of art that we have, the moving pictures that we have.
Because obviously it takes a quote unquote filmmaker,
right?
It's not just the fact that somebody had $1 bajillion to throw toward a screen.
Somebody not just one person.
Exactly. Yeah, man. You take a look at the credits anytime, especially when they even get down to the caterer's assistant and so forth.
Yeah.
Drivers, accountants, etc. So there's a ton of people that it takes to make a film. Who, in your judgment, is one of the better filmmakers? Or who do you give me like if you can't narrow it down to one, give me a top 5 or something.
Well, I mean, even just from growing up, you look at people like Martin Scorsese, you look at people like Steven Spielberg, the guys that have been around a long time. Granted, the man hasn't made a movie in forever, and unfortunately he won't, but like you look at like somebody like Mel Brooks, somebody who understood the assignment for comedy, was willing to press those buttons 50 years ago, and just be able to give us something that there may be some things that maybe don't hold up 50 years later, but they are masters at their craft. So it honestly, and I think that kind of leans into what kind of movies these directors, these orchestrators of these films, what they lean into, because you have somebody like Spielberg who he can understand a drama, he can understand like a action movie, excuse me, but like you get somebody like James Wan or somebody like that who is more horror, leaning driven and whatnot, something that James Wan would make, for The Conjuring or Saw or anything like that. He's not going to necessarily make the same kind of movie that Spielberg is, or even going back to Scorsese and, legendary directors in their own rights. If you gave the same script, the same everything, the crew and everything to Scorsese versus Spielberg, you're still going to come out with a different
different movies,
because they see it differently in their head.
Yeah. And of course, there were people like Hitchcock. And I still think one of my favorite stories about Hitchcock is the fact that the book that Psycho was based off of, he went out and bought every single copy of it in Los Angeles, so nobody else in Hollywood could have it.
So then that way he'd make sure that
so
he could make it.
Make sure that he could make the film, and brilliant move, and just crazy things that took place. And I'm sure there still are crazy things that take place, but they're probably a little bit more, from one studio to another, politically driven.
Oh, 100%.
As to how that takes place. But still, it's always just a wonder when you sit down, especially at a theater. I mean, I do love my streaming services, and I'm glad that there are things that I get to see because of that.
Right.
But when you sit down, especially you go to the state, my goodness, and sit there and, have yourself a big, much more popcorn than you should have.
Right.
And just enjoy that beautiful screen and the way that a movie comes out. It's such a thrill yet. And I remember
and they're comfortable seats.
Yeah, yes, they are.
How many times have you tried to keep yourself from falling asleep? Not because the movie's boring, but because you're so comfortable.
Yeah. I mean, it's every other movie for sure, probably.
I've had those instances where I'm going to go, like, I need to go get a thing of coffee beforehand.
Right.
Not because I think the movie's going to be boring, but because I'm going to get so comfortable in those seats.
Oh, I tell you what, it's also great, that you can crack a beer at the state.
Yes.
I know a lot of people love that. I remember the first time that my wife and I went together, and she hadn't been there. I'd seen a couple movies, and she laughed as soon as the film starts and you hear all across the theater, and just was so enthralled by that. But talking about everything that's good about movies, I was very fortunate one time. I was at when James Earl Jones was in Sioux Falls at Augustana College, and then was speaking at something later that week. There was a press conference, and you could go in, and I was fortunate enough to get to ask him a question. And I asked him, I said, well, were there times where ever you felt you were just paying the rent? And he kind of giggled about it. He says, but you know what? He says, some of those movies got me to go to places I'd never been or never would have had the opportunity to be. And he said, also, besides that, he says, it's always a great date night at a movie. And how true, in fact, the State Theater was the spot of my very first official date.
many years ago, before
January something of 1979. Were you even born yet?
Yes, I was.
Oh, you were? Okay.
January? Yeah,
January 79.
That was about 3 months.
What was the first movie you saw?
That I remember seeing?
That you remember seeing.
Oh, shit.
Or had a special effect, or a special event to it.
See, and that's the part that's funny, is that especially, and I don't know if it was just, and you certainly understand this, is that, come from a different generation, obviously pre-internet, pre-streaming,
right.
And to the point where, like, growing up as a preteen and whatnot, I lived on an Air Force base, and all that stuff, whatever. Going to the movies wasn't probably as often because we had to go into town and that sort of thing. So it was a lot of HBO, 2, 3, 4 years later back then, because it wasn't 2-3 months before you saw your movie. You waited until HBO was months later, or the VHS rentals and all that stuff. To the point where it's like actually remembering going to the movies probably wasn't until I was like 10 or 11.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like, some of my favorite movies, like the original Back to the Future, Goonies, Ghostbusters from like 84, 85. I don't remember if I ever saw them. I just don't honestly remember. I do remember, because I happened to be visiting in town here before we moved back to Sioux Falls. I remember having the opportunity to go see Back to the Future 3 when the Empire East still had its movie theater there. But yeah, I wish I could honestly remember, like, what is that first movie that made me go, I need to see this. I do remember as a kid, I'm pretty sure we saw American Tail. But even then, I don't even remember.
Yeah, I remember, I guess the first one, I know it wasn't the first movie I saw down in the Rapids Theater in Rock Rapids, but the first one that made an impression on me, and I still watch it all the time, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Well, it's because Willy Wonka will give people nightmares. So that Willy Wonka is a beautiful movie that is also nightmare fuel.
True.
To the point where, like, of course, that's the kind of movie you don't forget.
Daddy, I do not want a boat like this.
Exactly.
But it was just, I guess I loved the fact, Charlie gets it all at the end and so forth. And
Gene Wilder's performance.
Oh, amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then, of course, the irony of that is that Charlie, the kid that played him, never acted again.
Right.
One and only thing that he ever did.
Like, I'm
He's
good.
a veterinarian in New York now, in New York upstate, I think.
Well, I think to like your point or whatever, for me, one of my childhood, movies that I swear I buy every version when it comes out, every 5th anniversary is Goonies.
Uh-huh.
And, you look at some of those, which ironically enough, one of those actors is in the Oscars nominations this year, is the kid that played Chunk. He grew up to be an entertainment lawyer in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Which, if you look at him, you look at Chunk and you're like, that is not the same person. But however, the part I think is ironic about that is Key, who is nominated this year. Key is the one that plays Data in Goonies. Chunk is his lawyer that got him his role for Everything Everywhere All at Once. And I just think that's I love that full circle moment for that.
It's always great when it comes back around.
Mm-hmm.
Not to be confused with Short Round.
Back to your Indiana Jones.
Exactly. All right. Well, speaking of, who will be the big winners? Let's just take it from the top, and we'll go to the Best Picture. One of the things we talked about before we started tonight was, how come we don't always get to see all of the Oscar movies in this market? And why is it that some shows end up being Best Pictures, and then, a couple years later we've forgotten about them, or we never got to see them, and they don't even make, cable TV.
Right.
Yeah.
The one thing I will certainly say, kind of going back to what we've already discussed, though, for the sake of our community and Sioux Falls, is that's one of the things that for these movies that we don't normally get to see, we're in we're definitely, as of 2020, we're in a new decade of what is Sioux Falls' ability to get some of these things, because the state now,
right?
Yes, because there are some of those little movies where the big franchises of Cinemark and AMC and everything else like that, that they're in looking for that bottom line. They're in to make a profit, whereas the state is a nonprofit theater, and they're looking to bringing us those movies that places that
give us the culture.
They give us the culture. There are so many new releases that the state has provided us, Oscar winning or nominated or not, to be able to say that if the state wasn't here to provide us that film, we would never have gotten it in Sioux Falls, to the point where there's so much of a community here that enjoys film that probably would, like you said, is even if once it got to streaming and once to get to buy, nobody around here would have even given it two shakes, because it was never given to them as something presented to them.
Yeah. And so we are very fortunate for that. And you talk about the film community. I mean, we've got, South Dakota filmmakers. We've got half a dozen groups probably.
Yeah.
And then, the teachings at USF and places like that are increasing, with film being part of everything now.
Yeah.
We've got, young filmmakers, Sean Baker, so it's great that it's become more forefront. But, of course, Sunday night will be the big night.
Yes.
In fact, should we roll the timpani?
Oh, boy.
Oh, yeah. The 95th Annual Academy Awards. Brought to you by Price Waterhouse, and hopefully they don't have one of those situations like they did a few years ago on the Best Picture. Because I wanted that one to win. I was heartbroken. All right, Best Picture nominees are All Quiet on the Western Front, Avatar: The Way of Water, The Banshees of Inisherin, Elvis, Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Fabelmans, Tar, Top Gun Maverick, Triangle of Sadness, and Women Talking. I've seen a few of them.
I've seen a couple. There's a few that I haven't had the opportunity, unfortunately, which I believe most of these, again, thanks to the state, we've had an opportunity to come to Sioux Falls. I mean, there's probably at least 3/4 of these that we would never have seen in Sioux Falls if it wouldn't have been for the state.
True.
Absolutely. So again, that's why.
Yeah, we probably would have obviously seen The Fabelmans and Top Gun Maverick.
Yep, and Avatar. And Elvis, I would certainly say. That's where, but I do look at this list, and as somebody who saw Top Gun right out of the gate, asking me, hey, that's a high bar 36 years later that they're going to have to try to pull off.
And they smashed it.
And and I have a coworker of mine, and I was like, I would certainly say that movie is just as good, if not better than the original. Yeah. And he goes, those are very powerful words. And I showed him the Rotten Tomatoes, but I take Rotten Tomatoes with a grain of salt, but I also did show him not only the critics review score, but also the user score, which was in the 98, 99%. I was like, I said what I said. Again, growing up with Top Gun, that was a very high bar, and I do think they smashed it. But at the same time, too, for me, it's a very well put together movie. It definitely held up everything that it needed to for the sake of the legacy that was built upon it 36 years before that. But it's not necessarily one that I would say is that I want to win Best Picture.
Right.
Just simply because, this isn't take away from the sequel aspect of it and whatnot, but you already had a built-in fan base when you went into that. You already had built-in characters. All you basically were doing was giving us kind of a better version of what we got before.
Yeah, updated
version, exactly, which is to kind of say in the same instance of Avatar: Way of Water. Yeah. Again, I saw that one in the theater, 3D, XD. It's an absolutely mind-blowing movie. But I think just for the sake of everything that they're kind of being compared to, it's obviously a box office smash. Same with, Top Gun Maverick and whatnot. But I don't necessarily think that I don't want the popularity and the financial success of a movie to outshine a movie like, say, Tar or, Women Talking, which unfortunately are ones that I have not seen, but they're going to be lower budget, they're not going to be in the same kind of category as a massive multi-billion-dollar blockbuster.
True. And I was able to see Elvis, and then I also saw The Fabelmans. Fabelmans most recently, and basically an autobiography in many ways of Steven Spielberg's, but still a very solid movie. And just talking about how movies have come along, how they're made, and so forth. I thought one of the neatest little bits of cinema history in there was when his father says, "How'd you get the guns to look like they were shooting?" And he put a pinprick in them in each of the frames.
Oh, to give them the light,
the lighting, and so forth. It's like, wow, okay.
It's amazing what we did before CGI.
Yeah, phenomenal.
What did we need to do? In pre-computer generated effects to be able to say, oh, well, if I just do this on the 35 millimeter, this is how I can make it work.
Yep. Awesome stuff. And okay, so then speaking of filmmakers, let's go to the best director.
Yeah.
We have Mark McDonagh. We have Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert, Everything Everywhere All at Once, this movie I have yet to see but want to, because that is just getting so much talk.
Right.
And for so many different reasons. And, speaking of when we mentioned Short Round, here he is now 30-some, 40 years later, I think.
No, it's like 40 years.
40 years, I think. That little guy is now, a big time, and he probably thought his career was over in many ways. He hadn't been doing much.
No, I saw a round table. I want to say it's on, I think it's Variety.
Pardon the pun?
No.
For a short round table?
No, they do make that pun, though.
Do they?
I'm pretty sure they do. No, Variety does an actors round table that they do on YouTube that had It had Key, it had Brendan Fraser, Colin Farrell, Austin Butler, a lot of these guys that are basically like Oscar like being like looked at right now. And you know, he made mention about how the reason why he didn't do anything for the longest time is because of representation, because he couldn't find a role that, you know, he couldn't get the work, so he stepped away and whatnot. But that it was his wife that basically said that, you know, if this is what you want to do, you still need to try to do it and whatnot. And, you know, and he popped up, you know, in the last few years and whatnot. But to finally be able to get back out there with a movie like Everything Everywhere All at Once, to really show, you know, hey, I can still do this. Yeah. I may have been gone for a while, but I'm not going to.
I got the chops.
I got the chops. That he took that, you know, took it and ran with it. And I will certainly say, once you do get the opportunity, I mean, just again looking at this, I can't say much obviously for Todd Field and for Tar and whatnot, but just for the ones that are nominated, I would go with the Daniels, just simply because the best way I can express that movie, other than just the weirdness and trying to even give you an idea of what the movie is, because there's so much that's going on. It is like that weird piece of art, to the point where you can go to the museum, you can go to the art gallery, you can see this. It doesn't always make sense, but when you leave, you leave fulfilled. You feel that you have seen a piece of beauty and a culture, and you feel so much different emotion that comes out of it. That movie is by far probably one of the best things that I had seen all last year.
Best actor, we have Austin Butler for Elvis, Colin Farrell, we have Brendan Fraser from The Whale, which is, I have not seen that, and I so want to see that one too. And yes, while it deals with obesity, it also deals with family issues too,
right,
to go along with that. Paul Mescal, and then Bill Nye from Living. And here's an actor that's paid his dues, and he is getting a lot of good press on this.
You know, I agree, which again, yeah, Bill Nye has been one of those ones that he's at this point right now, I'm surprised they just haven't given him a lifetime achievement. Give him a lifetime. And the unfortunate thing is there are so many actors, which you do look at this actors, actresses, or for anybody, for any category for that much, whatever, is sometimes you don't look at their careers and just say, you should have gotten an award years ago. I mean, even to say when Leo DiCaprio finally got his for The Revenant, that dude should probably have been gotten awards a long time ago. To the point where, yes, Bill Nye, you look at it and be like, if say he were the one to win, I want him to win because of the absolute deserving, as opposed to them going, well, we need to give something to him here soon because it's that long down the road, you know. Just the same as, like, I'm glad that Heath Ledger got his Oscar for the Joker because it was an absolute standout performance. But you almost feel that kind of like sometimes it feels like it was the posthumous,
right?
Yeah. Of all these, though, I mean, the one thing I want to give Austin Butler the edge, just simply because, number one, Elvis is a fantastic film, as you probably would agree with me. But also his portrayal, his ability to not only become the character, but anybody who's listened to the soundtrack to that and whatnot, he's doing he did all of it, and he did a phenomenal job with that film. Ironically enough, that same roundtable I was talking about, he was actually trying to shop the idea of trying to do a biopic when he about a month, 2 months before he found out that Bob's was going to do one, and he worked his ass off to get that role. So yeah, for somebody who kind of the up and comer who's really getting a name for himself, I really want Austin Butler to really be able to say, hey, you know what, I'm here, I'm now, I'm going to show it.
Yeah. All right. Best Actress, Cate Blanchett. And then we have Ana de Armas for Blonde. I haven't seen that, surprisingly.
Not a Marilyn.
I'm a huge Marilyn Monroe fan. That's why I'm surprised I haven't seen it. Then we have Andrea Riseborough I believe is how it's pronounced, to Leslie. And then from The Fabelmans, Michelle Williams. I thought that was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm also hearing that Michelle Yeoh for Everything, Everywhere, All at Once is just amazing.
An amazing movie with a mouthful to try to get it
Yes,
out.
it is.
Agreed. Michelle Yeoh is just, honestly, everybody in that movie is on their game. She is no exception to that. I want that movie to just basically win everything that it's nominated for, because everything that, again, that's probably
everything.
one of the most perfect movies.
All at once.
But I was gonna say, with you're seeing The Fabelmans, I love the fact Michelle Williams just pops up every so often, just all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, just, oh, by the way, she's one of those ones where sometimes you forget she's around until then she shows up, but then she's always giving that A+ game.
Yep. It was knocked out of the park on her part. We don't really have time to go through everything else, but the one thing I did want to point out, Judd Hirsch, The Fabelmans, he is up for Best Supporting Actor. And I love Judd Hirsch. And I had seen, before going to see The Fabelmans, they had I think it was either Willie Geist Sunday Morning or CBS Sunday Morning, had done a feature on him, about him being up for this and being in The Fabelmans. And of course they showed a clip and so forth. So like, oh, that's good. And then I saw him in that movie and it's like, man, Judd Hirsch. And I was like, he had about 5 minutes of screen time. Is that enough to get a Best Supporting Actor?
That's where I do kind of question some of them and whatnot, and that's not to take away from a performance. Right. It just obviously
great performance.
It just means that 5 minutes must have been absolutely outstanding. Yeah. But that's where, like, sometimes you wonder how much of the politics ends up in Hollywood and whatnot. I don't want to take away from his performance, whatever, because if it's a standout performance, then it's worth noting and celebrating. But when you get somebody who, helps carry a movie like Key in, for the sake of Everything All Over at Once, I would feel it would be a disservice to someone like Key, who is
throughout the movie,
throughout an entire movie, who basically helps create this entire world and becomes a huge, massive part of it. As opposed to 5 minutes feels less supporting actor than more of a cameo, if you will, to say, oh, yep, he was in here. But if you're talking, I assume it's a Spielberg movie, so it's a Fabelman, so it's got to be almost 2.5 hours long, probably.
It is exactly 2.5 hours long.
To say is that, again, not to take away from his performance, but I think a lot of that should hopefully be considered when you're saying, how much of this is your 5 minutes worth in this one movie that helps define what this movie is versus someone else who is in 3/4 of a different movie, even whether it even be an hour shorter.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have discussed what we like about movies and what we're thinking about as the Oscars come up. And, we'll probably keep scoring our own minds.
Yes.
But where are you going to be? Is it a thing you do at home, or do you go to a big Oscar party to watch the Oscars?
A lot of times I just do it at home and and just enjoying everything just from the comfort of my couch. I'm not quite sure what doing exactly this year here, but it'll be nice to see what all happens.
Yeah, it's always a joy. It comes up on ABC this Sunday night, and of course, red carpet for about 28 hours prior.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
E News needs something to do on Sunday.
Very true. Yeah. All right, Brian Mensing, thank you so much. Appreciate you spending some time and coming in talking movies as we make our way toward the Oscars this weekend.
Absolutely. I appreciate coming on and being able to see you after all this time.
It's been a while, and I'm glad we ran into each other the other night by chance.
Yeah.
It worked out well. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And we'll be back with more of the Dave Holly Hour in just a moment. Ladies, when it's time to give your nails some love, get that extra special treatment from Quality Nails on South Minnesota Avenue in Sioux Falls. Manicures and pedicures that look great and make you feel fantastic. Zaya and Tony provide professional care for your hands and feet, whether you just want the basics or an extra special look with added flair. Oh, and guys, it's okay to treat yourself too. Quality Nails. Call for an appointment. 605-334-1463.
Check out the new ceramic studio in Sioux Falls, conveniently located off Kiwanis Avenue on 5th Street. TJS Ceramics. Bisque, studio time, or finished custom items are available. Visit TJS Ceramics Studio in Sioux Falls today.
Helping women feel empowered and confident is what Posh Boutique at the Bridges at 57th does, while supplying high-quality clothing that fits your lifestyle, personality, and price point. Whether you want comfy and cozy, casual attire, or something for a special occasion, Posh provides quality, selection, and value. They carry sizes extra small to 3X and have something appropriate for any age. Feel empowered and get confident. Posh Boutique at the Bridges at 57th.
The Dave Holly Hour, like eavesdropping on a great conversation between two very interesting people.
Welcome back, everybody. Oh, yeah. I've got to take some time off and just record it so I can push a button that says, "It's always a pleasure to talk Sioux Empire arts and entertainment." Always also a pleasure to have new guests on. But you know what? I also kind of think then it would take away from my fun of saying that. And it's definitely going to be fun today to talk to Hector Curriel, who is a caricaturist, an artist, an illustrator, and I just found out is also in a mariachi band. Hector, how are you?
Oh, Dave, thank you so much for the invitation. I'm pretty good. Thank you.
Great to have you. And it was interesting because it was one of those chance type things. My wife and I decided we were going down to have a beer at Wood Grain Brewing. Actually, she was going to have a beer. I was going to have a Diet Coke. And here's this caricaturist as part of a little vendor fair they were having that day at the lobby. And it's like, oh, cool. That's always fun. And as we go inside to Wood Grain, then she says, "So, you're going to go get a caricature?
Oh.
It's been a while since you had one." It's like, okay, yeah.
Sure.
And so did that. As I'm sitting there, you introduced me to the fact that you have illustrated a book, Joe Foss, Fighting Pilot, American Ace. You wrote this too?
Yes, I did. Mm-hmm.
Written and illustrated by you. It's an amazing book.
Thank you.
The graphics in it and so forth, everything just in plain black and white is phenomenal and a great read, especially for those of us that live here in South Dakota. How did you decide to do this?
Yeah, it's a little story. Started sometime in 2016. I received invitation for Call for Arts, doing some art for the new addition, the airport in Sioux Falls. As many people know, the name of the airport is Joe Foss Field.
Yeah.
But for a guy from Lima, Peru, I had no idea whatsoever who was Joe Foss. So I thought it important for me in order to craft my art proposal, maybe find out about who was Joe Foss. So I decided to went to the public library in Sioux Falls and ask for any book about him. So they are willing to find his autobiography, which is a very large book.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that happened when I started reading this book. It happened when you find a great book, you want to really end in the next couple days. You don't stop to read. And that's what happened to me. I found this book so remarkable, so fascinating. And I started asking my wife, "Hey, honey, how much you know about Joe Foss?" And she was able to tell me as much. So, and then I started asking more people in town. And unfortunately, I found not too many people remember him, mostly seniors.
Right.
And new generation kids, zero.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt, oh my gosh, this is something so sad because he was a big deal, a son of South Dakota who accomplished tremendous things And unfortunately, nobody remembered that.
Yeah.
So I feel like a call. I had to do something with this. This is really important. But if I'm going to do this, it had to be a different way because kids. We live in new generations. Kids, they're more care about pictures and videos, so illustrations, and that's kind of what I do. I am an artist, visual artist. So how about make like a graphic novel, a story about Joe Foss, but in a graphic novel, make more appealing for kids, for new juvenile. So that's where I start. That's where I start this project, and I connecting with a house publishing from Pierre, South Dakota Historical Press. They're very interesting about any topic relating to our region or state. So I present my idea. They're a little reluctant at the beginning because they never had experience doing a graphic novel. In fact, that's the first time. And well, the thing was kind of slow, but and then they answer firmly, and they say, "Yeah, we want to move forward on this." So that's I started doing my researching, my looking for more information because it's a no fiction book, so I had to be very accurately regarding to the facts. No? So it take for me about a year probably complete all my research and write my script. English is my second language, and it was challenging for me to write at the beginning. And also I rely on good friends who are a professor in university and English professors and they were willing to help me to crafting, to publishing my draft, my script. And that's just the way I continue working with them. And the other thing is also you have to breaking down the story, make like a graphic novel. It's a different format than just write a simple book. So I started working on my ideas and my layout for page by page, like you have to make the story like a storyboard, like a movies, in kind of in that format. And also I've been watching many, I don't know, I won't exaggerate if I say 100 videos on YouTube. From that time, I found amazing information. I'm glad they're still able to show for everyone on YouTube from those times. And I've been watching many movies relating to the war, World War II. So, and then take for me about 2 years to complete all my pages. I always admire the first great cartoonists or graphic novel artists from Frossera, Motini, or Custer, many great artists. And I say, if I want to do something like this, I want to do it in an old-fashioned way, handmade. Bad decision. Take me too much time, but I love it. And I put a lot of effort and passion every single panel I draw. And
it's evident. Yeah, I mean, yes. You'll look at it and you can see that. So my question for you, you're talking about the fact that, so you had the entire text done and then started the illustrations.
Right.
Oh, wow. Yeah, quite the endeavor then.
Yes.
No doubt about that. I remember, I never met the guy, but I knew who he was because of Joe Fossfield partly. And, growing up in this area, you learned a lot about him and all the things that he did. He was not just an American ace fighter pilot, goes into politics. He ends up being the first commissioner of the American Football League before it merged into the NFL. And it's like, man, this dude was just, all-American person besides all-American ace. What was the most interesting thing you found out about him?
What I love on him and kind of identify as an immigrant is about how hard he worked to reach his goals. He never had anything easy for him. He came from a rich family. He grew up in a very poor family. Grew up in the middle of the Great Depression. He lost his dad when he was little, young, and even he was no resources to be going to study to be a pilot. It's very expensive to be a pilot, and he had to find a way, and he worked hard, and he able to go to the Air Corps and receive his wings to be a pilot, and then he will reject him because he was too old.
Yeah.
At the time, they looked for pilots between 18 to 23. That was the range. He was 26, so he had a lot of hurdles to go through in order to reach their goals, and that's just fascinating for me. How he determination. He's goal oriented. He has all the vision to reach what he looking for in his life.
Have you approached school systems about taking this book into history classes?
Well, not. I think I in my house position, I think they're working in this. Probably eventually use like a textbooks, which should be great because it's based on facts and tell about history, no?
Yeah.
But I still waiting for them what they decide, no?
Because I often wonder anytime I'm out at the airport and I see that big statue, how many of us that live here take time to read what's on that statue, and if there's more people that fly into Sioux Falls and go, who's this dude? And then they take a look and start reading, go, wow. And, there might be a great number of people across the nation that go, yeah, Joe Foss Field, man. That Joe Foss, he was an American hero. And like you said, a lot of people around here have forgotten. So thankfully to you with this, it's just an amazing book. I got it done in 3 nights, I think. Very, very quick read. Enjoyed every little bit of it. It was just so interesting. And, as you mentioned, he wasn't given anything. This man worked hard to do whatever he did. And, there's something to be said about that in modern day times, too. But the other thing that I really enjoy about it is, like I said, the illustrations are just phenomenal. This is such a great book in so many ways. So tell us the award that you just won.
Yeah, I just recently received an email from my publisher. They say my book has won award for the Western American Writers. It's a very knowledgeable organization, and in that category, a juvenile nonfiction book, and I was very excited. And they just launched, or they announced all those winners from different categories, and on the Tucson Book Festival.
Okay.
And yeah, I was very proud of it and very grateful, because I think my book is not about me; it's about a teamwork effort. It's many people helped me really to make this true in different ways, and I feel I can honor them also through this award.
That's wonderful. Where can people get the book?
Yes. Well, right now, you can go either to South Dakota Historical Press. You can look. Also, it's available on Amazon.
All right.
And locally, you can go to Barnes and Nobles. There's also Sandbrooks. Yeah, many other. Even if you traveling right now, you go to the gift shop and you can find copies of my book. They are really happy to have copies from my book as well.
Oh, and thank you for signing mine, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
as well as, you see, we're sitting here in the studio, in my home studio, and first thing you noticed, of course, was the fact that the caricature that you had done of me a few weeks back, already in a frame, because I didn't want to mess it up or anything, because I know how sloppy I can be around here. But what got you into doing the caricatures?
What is what?
What got you into doing caricatures?
Well, I when I started my art training, I being exposed to work in different I would say styles or different things, like such as doing a portrait, a landscaping, book illustration, commercial art, and caricature. So that was worked for me pretty well because it let me work in different commissions.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been doing a lot of caricatures. I found really a good source for work.
Right.
And I love to do a caricature because it's like a therapy for me. You know, when you have someone in front of you and they know you're going to make it in a certain way, kind of funny way. Some people kind of act so stiff or looking so nervous, and I feel like they feel like they're nude in front of me sometimes. But I very nice. I always try to make their looks just funny, which is the goal. No?
Right. Yeah. And a lot of people forget that part about a caricature. It's not meant to be a portrait. It's
right. It's a
character.
Funny. Yes. When you trying to identify everyone has some special features on their face. No? Some people have a special unique nose or lips or the shape of your face, your eyebrow, your ears. It's a lot of stuff. And you play with us. As an artist, you're trying to manipulate a little bit and make a little more either bigger or small, whatever. No? So it's fun.
All right. So the book took you a few years to put together.
Yes.
Caricatures take you what, on average? 10 minutes, 15?
No, even less.
Even less.
Yeah.
Okay.
I found I can make obviously a very fast caricature in about 3-4 minutes.
Yeah.
No? Obviously, I prefer to have more time to get to make more detail, more. But sometimes, and like I'm working a lot of prompts, the kids are so eager that they lay out, and everyone, they want their caricature, so I had to move faster in my hands and trying to get it down as soon as possible.
Well, as soon as my wife posted it on Facebook, a lot of people were commenting about it, and it was fun to see people that we actually have as mutual friends and so forth. All of a sudden, John Gaskins from the Canaries goes, Hector, and I think Melissa Prostrollo also mentioned you and so forth. And it's like, okay, this guy gets around then. Yeah. So I suppose you go to a lot of fairs, festivals, and so forth to do that throughout the year?
Right. I mostly work in my office, which is in the building on 8th and Railroad Center.
Okay.
Suite 310C. But yeah, I receive invitations, go to companies' parties, celebration, proms,
right,
and different events like that. So yeah, I really busy. Yeah, but I'm happy for that.
What age did you get into art?
I was 9 years old, probably.
Okay.
After watching my first Disney movie, I was in awe to see those characters, and at that moment I forget about play soccer or hang around with girls, just be in my room and driving like a crazy. I remember trying to copy those characters, trying to make look like my Mickey Mouse, Goofy, Donald Duck, the old characters. So that's where I started, and that passion kind of grew more and more. And I had a good friend of mine. His uncle was a graphic designer, and one time we visited his office. We kind of sneaky, and I remember on his desk it was a pile of different lessons from Argentina to teach you how to draw as a professional level, how to paint, And I look for this guy and begging him, please, can you borrow this? I really want to learn. I know some like, what is the problem? Well, in my time it was a big deal because you don't have such a thing like an internet. You don't have like a lot of libraries. In order to be an artist, you had to get some money to go to some institution, have some kind of mentor, someone. But fine for me, those lessons was my dream, my treasure. Because I came able to learn by my own, like a self-taught. And that's the way I started getting more in art. Yes.
And so that's what all started it.
Yeah, I started. Yeah.
Well, the great thing is you have a wonderful looking business card too. Okay, because my caricature and the ones you were doing that day, black and white. But some of your color work that you do, you have on the business card some famous people.
Yes.
And it's like, woo, that's intricate. Does that take just 3 minutes or?
No, that's probably a little more, maybe 4. No, that is kind of special commissions for people or magazines. Something hire me to this. And obviously I take it for more than time. I would say 3 hours. No?
Oh,
Depends, yeah.
okay,
And so
yeah.
details, I used to do it handmade, like on watercolor or acrylic. But now with with the technology, you can work in through your iPad and your pencil and do it.
Right. What is it that you enjoy about art and being an artist?
Yeah, I define myself like a communicator. I really see art like my other language to communicate people, especially brings awareness on something really even social aspect or more or something of you. I very positive person. I like to uplifting people with art and trying to find the good thing in everything. And yeah, I am a communicator, and my goal is when I had commission. I remember doing commission for Sanford Children's Hospital. I got 6 pieces, and one of them is my favorite. Is located on the oncology department.
Okay.
It's a serious matter.
Very.
Children with cancer fighting. And I say, what can I do in order to bring some hope, some peace mind to people, parents who suffer and struggle with this. So I thought make like a bridge, a stone bridge, and at the top you see kids with some kind of illness or crashes on wheelchairs, and the reflection of the water, the same kids jumping, running, happy.
Wow.
And the background you see the castle and like a path go up to the hill and the castle on top. No? So I heard from the nurses and doctors when they saw parents able to figure out the message, something they had wet eyes on their tears, because ultimately that's what we're looking for, some hope, somebody can help the kids when they face severe illness like that.
You really put your heart and soul into your art, don't you?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
that's a good thing. That's what makes a difference as to what it appears as to everybody else. Any other forms of art in terms of the medium itself? You mentioned you would portraits, landscapes, things along that line. Do you do much of that?
Yeah, people ask me for, mostly what I do is book illustrations. Is my main thing. I love it. Second help, probably caricatures, portraits.
Yeah.
People have requests too. I think I pretty much do everything. I think it's something I encourage to new kids or somebody want to learn art or be in this career, trying to learn from the foundation. And the foundation for me means is learn how to draw from the human body aspect to learn about painting, color, about perspective, about value. It's just many, many things. And like the foundation of your career. And then after that, you decide going to abstract or impressionist, whatever, it's fine. But it's better when you have a foundation. Because I know many kids, they want to be artists and they doing something very fast and say, I make such a deep concept. Yeah, this express my heart, my spirit. And for me, it's just kind of just money. I admire abstract art. I can do this, I think. So, but I can see when somebody doing abstract art and really know how to draw, how you paint it, because he had a foundation and they can move into all different levels. So it's very important really to instruct yourself. I never stop to learn something new. Always I open to new things.
So all of this started because you had seen Walt Disney.
Yeah, we can blame him.
Did you ever apply to be a cartoonist at Walt Disney?
And he said, well, no, I never had the opportunity. And that was kind of my start point. And then I had other interests and more graphic novels for sure. Because I started reading like a Conan, Superman, Flash Gordon. Those kind of old classic. And I love the stuff too as well.
In fact, you're going to be out at the SuperCon?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I went last year.
Okay.
And I hope we're going to be this year too.
Okay, excellent.
Hopefully,
maybe our booths will be next to each other.
Yeah, please, let's do it.
That would be great.
And I would like to take advantage of this moment to invite people because my graphic novel will be exhibited on the Augustana University and the Western Studies Center.
Wonderful.
They asked me to, because those pages, they're a panel from 11 by 17. And when you see the original, you won't enjoy it. It's a different
I will
thing
definitely make my way to
see
that
book. So I want to display many of them, and I'm going to do my presentation. And it's going to be exhibit open from, I believe, from April 4 to the end of July.
All
and I believe, and how that day
is there an opening night that will have a reception?
I will post
so
in on my social media maybe more details. We're still working on the dates, but so far this kind of the time the exhibit will be available for everyone.
Excellent. All right. And so what's with the mariachi band?
Oh my! I didn't even ask you that. Please, I'm going to sing.
I'm not going to ask you to sing. You asked that I not ask that.
Well, you know, I am an artist in many levels. I always like to sing into, and I drew a man from Sioux Falls who he's running a band for many years. And one time he listened to me when I was singing in church, and he was interested about my voice and invited me to be part of this. And that's what we've been doing once in a while. It's a hobby. It's nothing really. And now we are a band here. It's called Mariachi with Amigos. Also, we are available. It's not commercial. You can find it on Facebook. Yeah. So once in a while we have invitations to doing some presentations.
And do you play anything as well?
No, I'm a main singer. I used to play guitar, but I found very difficult for me to play and sing at the same time.
I hear that often from people.
It's difficult. I admire those people can do that. I had to be or playing or singing. Otherwise, I couldn't both at the same time.
All right. I always like to end with a couple of questions. Sometimes the second question doesn't need to be asked based off of your answer from the first one. But when you're not part of arts and entertainment, what do you like to be entertained by?
Books. I like to buy books.
Big reader.
I enjoy go Barnes Noble. I spend hours and hours really look at those different books and buy eventually something I find interesting.
All right.
Yes.
Any other hobbies?
Well, I don't know if we call hobby photography. I love photography. It's my passion too. Yes, I love those beautiful sky we had in Sioux Falls and South Dakotan in general.
The reason that my logo is purple and orange is because of a South Dakota sunset, and it would have been about 1998 or 99. I was working up in Brookings at a radio station and also had to do some sports, so went to a 9-man football game, and the high school was right next to a lake, and it's 7:30 in the evening, and it's a purple and orange sunset, and it's reflecting right off of that lake.
Oh, my gosh.
And this was before we had cameras on phones or anything. But that I can still see it. And, we've got some beautiful landscapes.
Oh, we have such a beautiful skies. I love it. Really.
No doubt about that.
Yes.
Hector Curriel, thank you so much.
Thank you, Dave.
It's been a pleasure, and I wouldn't doubt if you'll make a return appearance sometime, because you never know when I need another caricature.
Anytime. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you. And we'll be back to wrap up the Dave Holly Hour in just a moment.
Comedy magician and hypnotist Jesse Moffat's right. He can't play the piano, but he can sure entertain crowds with his amazing magic and clever quips. His shows always make the participants the stars, especially when they've fallen asleep on stage. They've been hypnotized. Are you the party planner in your group? Then you owe it to your group to make the event magical, even if it puts you to sleep. Here's how.
For booking information, go to Jesse Moffitt Entertainment on Facebook. That's JESSEMOFFITT. Or call 605-929-0964. From the Dipsy Doodle Studios at the world headquarters of Big D Entertainment, a 40-square-foot home studio in the middle of America, it's Dave Holly.
Thanks again to my great guests, Brian Mensing and Hector Curriel. And, of course, thank you for listening, downloading, sharing, following on social media, and your overall support of this show. If you haven't so far, follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Automatically gets you entered for Pizza with a Podcaster. Now, for all 170 episodes, go online at davehollyhour.com. As the Sioux Falls Arts Council says, together we art. As Arts South Dakota says, home is where the art is. As I say, put some art in your heart. Remember, I'm Dave Holly, and for me, every day is a holiday.
The Dave Holly Hour has been brought to you by Posh Boutique, The Sky in Tea, Excel Chiropractic, Quality Nails, Jesse Moffitt Entertainment, and Sonny's Pizzeria. If you would like to contribute to the continued success of this podcast, simply buy Dave a cup of coffee. Go to davehollyhour.com and look for a coffee cup icon in the lower left. Don't forget to stay up to date on the show on Twitter and Instagram. Follow the Dave Holly Hour on Facebook, and you'll be automatically entered in our Pizza with a Podcaster contest. The Dave Holly Hour is produced in the Dipsy Doodle Studios by Big D Entertainment.
Thanks for listening